guys, Towers here. Welcome back to DMZ. We are going to be flying solo here. We're going to head into Koche, get a warm-up in, and try to preserve this exfil streak. Want to get a few more ride shields for our first responder roleplay. We're working on an ISO 45 build. I can't remember ever bringing this thing in, but it's a very powerful weapon. This was an early build with an optic on it. And here we've opted for just the iron sight setup. A Lacerda compensator on the muzzle, Nexus foregrip, a point G3P laser for hipfire, and of course the 45 round mag, largest mag. It's a very high rate of fire gun, so you're going to need that. It does do enough damage to where you could get away with a 30 round mag, but you're probably not going to be 100% accurate with this thing, especially in high pressure scenarios. So you also want to minimize your reload time as the time that your time spent actually reloading. And then just for that fifth attachment, we have AP rounds for the ammo type. So we'll try this out, see how it goes with it against the tier 3 bots. We're going to try to build a riot shield, which will necessitate some liquid nitrogen and 2 delta boards, and that's only after we get the secure buy open. So we've got a stash of sulfuric acid. Sometimes that's part of the recipe for the secure buy, so we're just going to take one in just in the chance that it does call for it, and if we don't find any in our spawn, we'll at least have some. We can always drop it for bag space later. We are almost topped out on the exfil streak on this guy, so hoping to not give these Damascus or gold dog tags away to anybody, but of course we will die at some point. But I'd like to die alone in Koche to the bots, so that no one will have the glory of picking up these dog tags. But I don't want that to be the focus of my play style here. But let's get into it. We're hoping for a spawn on the north side of the map for Koche.
Welcome to Al Mazrah. Explore, secure intel, and loot to gain access to new missions. Enemy threat is high, so expect contact.
Found the vehicle. Found the vehicle.
Ultra One, enemy threat is moderate in the AO. Ultra One, that area contains high amounts of radiation. Use your gas mask and move fast. Ultra One, the chemist is approaching your area. Stay alert. Ultra One, intel spotted a weapons case in your area. Location is marked on your attack map. Be advised, a heavily armored target appears to be guarding it. Ultra One, we've lost signal on your location.
Found some loot here.
Glad we brought this in.
Ultra One, there's increased enemy activity. Activity has increased in the area. Keep your eyes open.
Found some loot here.
لما تشوف حدا من جد ما حدا رح يسلم.
One, be advised. Got hostile reinforcements incoming. 1, be advised threats are moving into the area. Ultra One, there's increased enemy activity in the area. Expect contact. Ultra One, activity is increasing near your location. Stay alert.
Someone's crashing the server. Somebody crashed the server. Let's try it again. DDoS attacks were always possible, or if they're just now or if they're now possible because there are no more safeguards in place.
Welcome to Al Mazrah. Explore, secure intel, and loot to gain access to new missions. Enemy threat is high, so expect contact. Ultra One, enemy threat is moderate near your location.
Found a vehicle.
of sync with the server crashers. Maybe there's just... Maybe I'm just getting in the same lobbies with one guy who's doing it. Matched up with another one. Let's take the time to... I'm sorry. We're going to wait a couple minutes and try to get out of sync with the server crashers. Take a moment to look at the ISO build that I finished earlier today. And this is another weapon. I'd like to look at the 9mm. I do have a preliminary build for this one too. And we might get into building that right now. But I'm going to bring both of these in so we can do a side-by-side. So this is the current build. What I do when I start building a weapon is I'll bring it into the firing range naked. That is without any attachments on it. I'll just start working with whatever I think the most appropriate magazine size is. So the gun will look like this stock. Then I already know that it's a high fire rate weapon. I'm not going to be able to do much with 30 rounds. That's only going to be 15 effective rounds with a 50% accuracy rating. It's kind of a best case scenario combat accuracy. So I know I'm going to have to throw the 45 round mag on there. No sense at all in messing with the 12 round mag. It's not only a waste of an attachment slot, but that's a good way to get yourself killed. It's by using a unnecessarily undersized magazine. So what I'll do first is I'll first actually just run around with the weapon and just get a sense of how it feels. And I'm first looking at the handling of the weapon, so I can fire off a round or two and then see what the reload speed is like. See what the reload's like from empty. So it's not bad. It's probably similar to the Bass P and maybe even slightly faster than the Bass P. And can take a look at the recoil pattern. So we can see that it's actually pretty good on the vertical, but it really dances left and right a lot. So I know I'm going to have to go for some horizontal recoil control at some point. So I can get a look at it here on the door. If you shoot the wall, you're gonna have to come up real close and to see those bullet holes. So we use this door here. We use these dividers in between the stalls. So that's a get a slightly different look at it. Kind of see a more general pattern here, and then you can also use the bulletproof glass here. I'll start at the bottom to save myself room for new spreads as I add attachments. So that first time I was just shooting without engaging the rotational aim assist. That kicks in when you move your player character left to right. I'm doing that to get a more full sense of just the recoil without any assistance from the game's aim assist. So as we use the game's aim assist, things become easier, and the real recoil pattern of the gun becomes a little bit more obscured. Because you're going to be magnetized onto the target. So I can see that we're almost pretty much straight up and down. We got a slight, very slight rightward bend, but really almost vertical. But the main thing is that the main thing that's going to hurt our accuracy is that really random left and right movement as we go up. Which will make the front sight post dance around a bit too much. And it looks really accurate right now because I've been practicing and training with the weapon today, but so I know we have some horizontal recoil management we're going to have to get into at some point. So besides the magazine, the next thing I'll consider is the optic system, and as you can see, the weapon has a nice bright orange tip on the front sight post there. Besides that, the iron sight picture is not great, but I have some cluttering going on, especially with the rear sight, but also with the front sight. But the front sight guards on the left and right of the post, which is where your bullet's going to impact, right in the middle there. They're very thick, but they aren't thin enough or similar enough to the front sight post to get confused for the front sight post. So this is not going to happen. I'm not going to bring it up on target and think I'm actually on target with that left front sight post guard. So I'm going to know that I'm off target. So because of that coloring on the front sight post, on the tip of it, that actually makes or breaks the iron sight picture. So I know that it's going to be usable, and I always want to use the iron sight picture if it is usable, because anything I put on this is going to slow down my ADS time. Any obviously a bigger sight, that's not that's, you don't want that on an SMG anyway, but even a red dot like here, I do have other attachments on the gun, so we are slowing down the ADS time further, but just that that red dot, in this case a blue dot alone, is going to slow down the ADS time. You can see it's really, really fast right here. Most of that is because I don't have any other attachments on this gun. On this one I have a muzzle device and that hip fire laser and the optic system itself, and also the magazine will slow down. If you use a larger magazine, that's always going to slow down your ADS time too. So you can see it's noticeably slower to ADS with this versus this setup. So that's the first major change from our initial build, is we're going to start using the iron sight picture instead of a even though this sight picture is much cleaner, this is actually going to be quicker to bring up onto target. And if I'm in a position where the guy's close enough to be obscured with that rear sight, I'm probably going to start with hip firing anyway. As you can see there, I'm basically pre-firing my aim, and I've already got a good deal of damage onto him before I even have him into a full ADS. And even without any attachments, the hip fire on this gun is actually pretty good. Not the best, but that is something we're going to aim to improve also. So I don't need an optic, so now I would look at my barrel and my stock options, and I'll check the rear grip options just to see if I have anything strange or out of the ordinary. But in general, you're going to get 3 rear grip options with every weapon. You're going to get some kind of flint resistance option, some kind of mobility oriented option, handling option, which will take away from your accuracy, and then you'll also get a recoil control option, but as you can see here, that'll actually take away from your aiming stability, which is a type of passive recoil. And what aiming stability is this kind of swaying that's happening. So if I put that recoil control rear grip on, while I'm firing, the recoil will be improved, but that aiming idle sway, aiming stability, will get worse. That's going to happen if I'm firing or not. So I don't want to. That's a type of recoil that's happening even when you're not firing, but also when you are firing. So I don't want to add recoil control and sacrifice that other type of passive recoil. that's happening right now as I swing over to his right shoulder, to his gut, to his left shoulder, up to his chest, down to his elbow, down. So you can see how we don't want any more of that happening. So I know this whole category I can write off. I'm not going to choose anything from there. I'm going to look at my stock options. We have a mobility option. We have another mobility option. We have a direct recoil control option, but as you can see here, this is going to take away ever so slightly from our aim down sight speed, but it's also going to make us less mobile, which is not a good thing on an SMG. That sprint speed is going to be your regular sprint. So so there's two types of sprint in the game. There's this here, which is a tactical sprint, which is the fastest mobility option in the game. And then once that depletes, you go into a regular sprint here. So this is what you'd be in when your tactical sprint runs out. And if you know how to refresh your tactical sprint with a tack slide or with a dolphin dive, you can keep that up and refresh that as much as possible, but eventually you are going to be running out of stamina and you're going to be moving at this rate right here. So if you're having to cover a long distance, if you're in a position where you can't prone dive or reliably sprint, like say you're moving around really tight corners like this, if I were to slide, I don't have enough room to even initiate the slide, and even if I did, I would slide right past where I want to end up. So getting caught out here could lead to my death, or it could allow somebody to pick me back up visually. So sometimes that sprint right there, regular sprint, is all you have. And if you're ducking in and out of cover, like really tight turns and corners, you know, you want as much mobility in that scenario as possible. So you don't want to take away, you don't want to have a slower tactical sprint or regular sprint if at all possible. And you can see that the regular stock option on this weapon is kind of hollowed out, like it's already kind of a mobility stock option. So we do have one more option here. We have two more options. We have this demo fade tack that'll give us aim walking speed and sprint speed, which might be nice, but that is going to take away from our aiming stability in a big way. And then we also have a recoil control option, which will make our ADS time a little bit slower and our crouch movement speed a little bit slower. We're not really concerned about the crouch movement speed, but we are concerned with the aim down sight speed. So I think out of all these options, none of them are going to give us any real benefit to accuracy or handling characteristics. So this is another category we're going to write off entirely. So we know we don't have to, we can use the iron sight, so we don't have to equip any optic. So we're going to ignore this slot we're going to ignore the stock slot, and we're going to ignore the rear grip slot for the reasons I mentioned. So that leaves the ammo type, which should always be your last consideration when building out a weapon. The underbarrel slot, muzzle slot, barrel slot, and the laser slot. And with an SMG, I already have an idea that I'm either going to want to, with SMGs, ARs, and sniper rifles, the laser attachment is actually, more times than not, it's very useful and it's really beneficial. So you can go one of two ways with the laser attachment. You can go with a hip fire laser or an ADS laser, but we'll get to that in a moment. So the next thing we're going to check is the barrel slot, and we have a few different options here. We have a mobility option here. We have another mobility option. We have an accuracy option, a range option. We have an extreme range option, and then we have this here, which will give us some recoil control. It's 1 inch shorter than the standard barrel. It's a 6-inch barrel as opposed to a 7-inch barrel, and it's suppressed. So you might think this is good, but as we see here, it's going to take away from movement speed in general. It's also going to make our damage range worse, and it's going to take away from our ADS time. We have this option here, which is also suppressed. It does give us more bullet velocity, which is good on a subsonic type weapon like this is, and it gives us recoil control along with a little bit of hip fire accuracy, but this one also takes away from our movement speed and our ADS time in a big way. You can see that that red negative coming through in the handling down there on the left side of the screen. That the last bar, that's actually quite a lot, and we're going to be slower all around with this thing. So we don't need a rifle size barrel on an SMG. We're going to have a long range option with us, in most cases an AR or a sniper rifle. So we don't need our SMG to be reaching out into the mid-range, because that's going to make our mobility and our close range fighting that much more difficult. And the whole reason you're taking an SMG is as a close range fighting tool and as a movement tool. You're going to be running around with your SMG. You're not going to be running around with your launcher out or your sniper rifle out or your AR if you have empty fists, a pistol, or an SMG with you. You're always going to be faster with your fists, with a handgun or with an SMG in your hands over any AR. So we don't really have any great options here in the barrel category either, at least not for what we intend to do with this weapon. So this is another category we can skip over. So we can skip over the optic, the stock, the rear grip, and the barrel, which now leaves us the underbarrel, the muzzle, and the laser. And so next we're going to look at the underbarrel option, and we're just going to do a quick scan of everything, make sure we don't have any strange, unique attachments. Everything looks pretty normal here. All the normal vertical foregrips, all the normal angled foregrips. So you could go one of two ways with the underbarrel attachment. On this weapon type, you can go with an angled foregrip, which will give you some beneficial accuracy stats, but it will retain as much mobility as possible. Or you could go, you can max out the accuracy with a vertical foregrip, and the vertical foregrips are always going to be oriented around your hip fire accuracy. There aren't going to be any vertical foregrips that give you ADS accuracy. So the best vertical foregrip in most cases is going to be the Hex 40. And you can experiment with the other ones. That's just the one that I like to gravitate to. So if I wanted better hipfire performance, or the best hipfire performance possible out of this category, I would go with the Hex 40 vertical here. But I want to retain as much mobility as possible, so I'm now going to look at the angled foregrips here, and I have a couple options. I have these first two options are probably the best for direct recoil control. You can see that those recoil stats there in the bar, third from the bottom. These first two are going to give you the most in that regard for recoil control. We also have the Gravedigger and the Ripper, and then we also have, and then we finally have the Nexus at the end here. We also have the Phase 3. So I've chosen to go with the Nexus because that takes away the least from my mobility and handling. It doesn't take away anything from my mobility directly, and the only thing it takes away from my handling is just a slight decrease to ADS time, which I think is going to be worth it. So if we do a side by side here, so no foregrip on this one, and then I have the Nexus on this one. So we're just going to look at the ADS time difference. So it's probably hard for you to tell, but we are slightly slower with the Nexus, but not by much. So I think that's acceptable. So we're going to go ahead and slap that Nexus on. So now all we have left for interesting categories are going to be our muzzle device, our laser, and our ammunition type. So we know earlier from examining the recoil pattern that we have pretty good straight up and down vertical, but we do have that left and right horizontal dancing. So your muzzle devices are going to be able to mitigate that most directly. We could go with a suppressor, but any suppressor option is going to be on the heavier side of muzzle devices. You can go with a flash hider, which is going to give you some kind of recoil management. It's not direct recoil control. In this case, it's this spiral 3.5 is going to give us recoil steadiness, which is better than nothing, and it is on the lighter side of our muzzle devices, but I think I want to go for direct recoil control and take the Lacerda here, and that's going to only give us horizontal recoil control. We're not concerned with vertical because we already expect the gun to kick up. So if we look here, without the foregrip and the muzzle device, that's what that recoil pattern was looking like. Now this is with those two attachments. So we can see here that's a much tighter spread than this here. And we can even see it here too. It's a little bit tighter on the left and right for horizontal. Alright, so we've got our muzzle device nailed down. So we can go for an ADS laser, or we can go for a hip-fire laser. So let's take a look at what it looks like with the ADS laser first. We've gotten it back to almost a stock ADS time. And we have a muzzle device on this one, and there is no muzzle device on this one here. So we could go for an ADS laser, but I think I want to go for the best possible hip fire spread. So we can use the hip fire out to 10 meters, and beyond that we really do want to be ADS. And we can transition into an ADS finish in those close ranges. Or if the target is moving laterally in the extreme. two best hipfire lasers are going to be your Point G3P and your Grim line, and they're both going to be green and always on at the hip. You can see it actually turns off when you go ADS. Whereas the ADS lasers will be active as your ADS, but not in the on hip fire. And so the advantage to using a hip fire laser, besides the obvious, is that you can hold angles without exposing your position with that laser. If you're doing this with an ADS laser, that red laser is going to give you away. In the case of the VOK 7 milliwatt. So finally, we're going to add an ammo type because we've already determined that these other slots are just not worth it. And the ammo types are not going to take away from your handling or mobility. The only thing that an ammo type could potentially take away from would be your damage range or bullet penetration. Damage range in the case of high velocity, and bullet penetration in the case of frangible or hollow point. And on a very high rate of fire weapon, that's really the only case where the overpressured may be worth to take. But I like to have as much bullet penetration in all scenarios. So I'm actually going to take the armor piercing, and that's going to allow me to, like, say if this was not bulletproof glass, but if it was a piece of plywood or something, I'd be able to damage right through that plywood. So that's what the final build would look like here. And this may change over time as I begin to use this weapon more and more. I may figure out that different attachments more suit a certain type of play style. I like to exploit with a weapon of this type, or I may want to get into tuning at some point in the future. See, we have sliding hip fire accuracy on the y-axis there. I'm probably never ever going to tune towards that. But I may end up tuning towards hip spread on the x-axis there to the far right. But I would have to, in that case, I would have to actually make my sprint to fire speed even worse. And your sprint to fire speed is this right here. It's as you're coming from a tactical sprint. So that's very important for a close range weapon like an SMG. You don't ever want to make your sprint to fire speed worse on a close range weapon if at all possible. Guys, I'm going to cut this one here, and I'm going to resume in just a little bit, and we're going to see if we can get back into it. Try to build up a little bit of a bigger stockpile of ride shields, going through Koche and learning the ISO 45 in close range settings against fully armored opponents, and I think that Koche is a good place to do that, because you're going to be facing mostly tier 3 bots down there. Get some tier 2s, and you do get the occasional tier 1 bots, but mostly it's tier 2 and tier 3 bots, so those are going to be a better simulation of live players. But guys, I appreciate you tagging along. I hope you had fun. I'll catch you guys soon for part 3.